Okay. Uh, Still there is some disturbance from the participants. Can you just mute all of you?
Can I say something?
Yes.
Yes, there is the Sunit Kumar. If you mute him, so I think there is maybe problem.
I think some other audio is coming.
Sir, audio is coming from Sunit.
Okay, you are able to hear me now clearly, right? Just even one person. Yeah, I have unmuted. Are you able to hear me clearly? Okay, yes. Okay, then let's go without further delay. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay. Okay. So in the video, what I was trying to show you, so that's just a funny cartoon in which the person is actually very cheerful, enthusiastic, proactive, and is answering all the questions, but is missing one very important skill, that is active listening. So I consider, like, for all barriers, communication barriers in our day-to-day life, as well as in for example, in the workplace environment, be an active listener. And I'm just going to most of you will think that yes, I'm listening, yes, I'm all the time listening. I'm just going to give demo, make you understand that most of the times you are not actually listening, and you are most of the times hearing, and what kind of listening is required, and accordingly we'll be able to have this strategy of overcoming some of the barriers in communication. Okay. Now, before that, some people think that listening is perhaps not at all required in communication. Uh, uh, and people think that they can do away with listening completely. But we should know that listening is actually a very integral part of communication. And if you want to understand, like, human relationships, which are very important in your soft skills, communication and human relationships go hand in hand. And you can develop positive relationships, whether it can be, for example, in the normal life, or in your day-to-day life. If you want to develop any kind of positive relationship, unless you are able to be a very active listener, you will not be able to maintain positive relationships at all. Okay. Now, the more intense a relationship, the more deep communication develops. That also, you know. This is a very interesting thought. It says, like, the wings carry the bird, but the bird actually carries the wings. It shows that communication and human relationships are very integral to each other. It's the wings. It looks like they carry the bird, but it's the bird that carries the wings, indicating that relationships and communication both are integral. But there are some misconceptions about communication. Some people think that only speaking, being a loudmouth itself is enough, and I am a good communicator. And people think that if I'm able to speak good, I'm a good communicator. And most of all, talkative people everywhere, they think that they communicate better than calm and silent people. Aggressive people think that they communicate better than assertive people. But you know that to be a good speaker, you don't have to be a listener at all. Some people think that they don't have to be a listener and I can just hear things. But we need to understand that listening is different from hearing. Listening is not just paying attention to other person's words, but also to his tone and facial expression. But this means like it's not just your verbal communication, but also you have to pay attention to the non-verbal part of communication. Uh, most of the times hearing is physical. So like when we were playing this, you were saying that lot of disturbance and you are able to see that it's affecting your listening. When you hear, you are hearing a lot of noise and other things from outside. But listening is actually a mental activity. So it involves your thinking, it involves your assimilation. Okay. And when you compare this with hearing, uh, hearing can be done even when you are sometimes in deep sleep. Okay, so there are people who are used to hearing certain songs and sleeping. People even hear the snoring of others and then they are able to sleep. So that is possible. But listening is not possible uh, in the way you just hear. Apart from just hearing, it involves reception, selection, organization, assimilation, interpretation, evaluation, and response. Okay. There's a famous song by Simon and Garfunkel that actually kind of satirizes people who talk without speaking and who hear without listening. And that's the kind of situation that we are all caught in. Most of the times, we are actually hearing without listening. And what I'm focusing as the strategy number one on the topmost is your ability to develop your effective listening. Okay. Effective listening is possible only when the people involved are fully present, attentive, and responsive, with their preoccupations, distractions completely sorted out. Now, for effective listening, listen to this quote from Robert Schuller. He says that the mind should be open. Uh, if at all you want the mind to function, because he says it's like a parachute, it functions only when it is open. So, my next question and next demo is to check whether your mind is really open. Even at this point of listening to the lecture, is your mind really open, or it's preoccupied with so many other thoughts, so many other things that's happening around to you? Okay. Let's check that. And that will also make you understand why I'm putting so much emphasis on listening. And listen to me very carefully and then respond using the chat. So for the time being, I will not unmute. I will unmute at the end of this so that all of you can speak, and even if there is disturbance, no problem. Since we lost a lot of time, let me take it with full focus, and please, like Anthony says, lend me 10 years. Okay. Uh, now listen to me carefully and then respond. Student at the University of California were actually asked by Mr. Agnew of the Department of Medical History for their reaction to the following. Now, you assume that you are the students and then you respond to this situation. Okay. Now, this is the case history that was presented to them. The father has syphilis. Listen to me very carefully. The father has syphilis and the mother has tuberculosis. They have had 4 children. The first one born blind. The second died at the time of birth only. The third was deaf and dumb. The fourth had tuberculosis. The mother is pregnant with her fifth child. Now the parents are willing to have an abortion. Now, you are there, and then you are there to help them to make a decision. Whatever you say, they are willing to take it. Okay. So what is your decision? The parents are willing to have an abortion. What is your decision? Very quickly put it in chat, one or two people. Lakshmi says, good morning. Good morning is already over. Can you just give your decision, Miss Lakshmi? Okay, Nanda says abort the child. Dr. Nanda says, Sarita says, yes, abortion. Okay. Pratima says, continue with this. Some are saying no abortion. Okay. Okay. Dr. Priyadarshini says abortion. There's a mixed reaction, but they are all saying you can't kill these things. But going by the case history, many are saying that we should go for abortion. And that's what the students also responded. Okay, Murugeshan is also saying they may abort by looking at the case history. Now, this is how we may form kind of thought based on the inputs we are given. And when the faculty received almost all students favoring abortion, Mr. Agnew's comment to them, he said, congratulations, you have just murdered Beethoven. The case history was for Beethoven. He was the deaf musical composer and a child prodigy who gave his first public performance as a pianist when he was 8 years old. So the point that is made is you can be created this kind of bias even when you are listening to people. So the lesson that we learn is listen without prejudice. So some of you are right. Some of you said that we should go to a genetist and take consultation. Uh, you said we should have second opinion. We should think about it. All of your opinion is very valid. But the point I am making is try to learn to listen without prejudice. Most of the times when we hear from people who claim that they are experts and then who say that this is according to so many facts and all that, we tend to believe that. Okay, I'm also going to discuss about that at a later stage. Okay, uh, very quickly, I'm just making fine distinction between hearing, effective listening, and then I'm saying that you should become active listeners. Why it is important? You know that knowledge is power, and knowledge clearly saves a lot of time and saves things from damage if you're able to develop your knowledge by proper active listening. And active listening is the key to successful personal and professional relationships. And you should mind that it's the quality of your relationships that determines the level of your success. Okay. More friends you have, more intense the relationship, more people are willing to bail you out on critical situations, more happy you will be. And that depends on your listening skill. And active listening has a great impact on your job effectiveness. Most of the times, higher authorities prefer the one who is able to listen more and deliver more than just talking, speaking, but then all are in words, but then not being done properly. If you're a very active listener, it will help you to avoid miscommunication and conflicts. I'm going to show some very quick example, and it increases your productivity also. Okay. And it improves persuasive and negotiation skills without any doubt. But the next question that you may be having is like, what could be the barriers? Are there some barriers, and how we can overcome these barriers, and how we can be aware of this? Uh, there could be physical barriers. For example, we had physical barriers like disturbance from other participants. What we did, we muted everyone. So if you have disturbance from outside sources, you can control that. Poor acoustics, uncomfortable environment, message overload, they can all do that. But they are in control. So that is the most important thing. That is in control. But the people related barriers, are often not in control unless you pay conscious attention to it and you pay good efforts. It's very difficult. So the physiological one related to health conditions, you are not in control because suppose you, let's say, uh, so like some people are asking Sunit Kumar to switch off the video. So I think participants, for the time being, you switch off the video on your own instead of again I making all of you switch off the video. Uh, Sunit Kumar, okay, I've done it from my side. Okay, thanks for alerting me. Okay. The physiological one, as I said, suppose you are suffering from severe fever or stomach pain, whatever, you will not be able to listen to the person who is just before you. However, like renowned the person may be a Nobel Prize winner, but you will not be in a mood to listen to the person. But worse than that is the psychological ones, which I am going to discuss. For example, antipathy for the speaker. Even if the person is your colleague, if you have some kind of negative vibes with that person, you will develop antipathy. However, the person is going to give you the best lecture. And there are preconceived notions, fixed mindset, cognitive dissonance. About cognitive dissonance, I'll also talk separately. Let's look at it very quickly here. And personal stress, anxiety, I'm also going to talk about that. Impatience and intolerance. Now, these are things that you need to focus on. Sometimes inadequate language base. Normally, this is more relevant at student level when they are not able to grasp certain technical vocabulary combined with their shyness to seek clarifications. Uh, they don't follow the lecture at all. So, but this can also happen to us if you are not aware of certain technical jargons. Some people are tend to listen partially. Okay. Now, what it means is something that we do all the time. Like even in FTP, I heard that sometimes people are attending multiple FTPs at the same time and listening partially everywhere. Like you, if you could see the picture, the person is speaking on phone using the computer and then talking to someone. Somebody is reading a book. Somebody is actually uh, trying to even read out something. So all the things which is distracting you when you are indulging in a conversation, you should be extremely careful. So this amounts to partial listening. Uh, but more important than that is the disinterestedness. Like before attending any session, any or even talking to someone, create an interest in the person or in the subject and then pay attention to uh, the details. If you look at students, if you ask them what they listen to in the class, they'll not be able to tell. But if you ask them to recall the cricket score that was scored by their favorite cricketer 10 years before, so they'll be able to recollect it and tell you accurately. The reason is they are disinterested, so they disconnect. So on the one hand, speakers try to create interest, but on the other hand, audience as listeners, being an active listener, should also generate interest before going to that. The worst of all is prejudging the speaker or the speech, like forming conclusion about the speech just by looking at the speaker's dress, appearance, posture, etc. And sometimes there is also this gender and color preference. So some people have certain color preference, certain gender. They like some people with some color, some look giving a talk, but they don't like somebody else coming and giving a talk. So that also creates this one. So that status and stereotypes affecting critical thinking. Suppose somebody is introduced as a very Big Shot, a VVIP, and then, as I said, Nobel Prize winner and all that. What creates is a kind of stereotype that affects critical thinking. Just like the discussion we had about abortion, people will try to form into conclusion which is not critical, but which will be emotional judgment. And the other worst thing is negativity towards speaker. Sometimes just by looking at the speaker, they will underestimate the speaker's capabilities. They show animosity from the beginning. They ask troublesome questions, and then they disapprove the speaker's viewpoints. Okay, so they keep on arguing, they keep on debating, and they end up in constructing distorted message. When everybody has understood the session correctly, the person who has negativity towards the speaker will not be able to get the full import of the session or the conversation. Uh, the other one is diffidence, more relevant for students group or even among large group, and some people have this kind of attitude. um, there is this defeatist attitude, like the mind thinking that I will not be able to understand anything at all. So that is something that one has to keep that in mind. If one is having that, one should not be able to underestimate one's self capabilities. Otherwise, like this will also act as a very important barrier. Uh, the other thing which apparently looks like not a major issue, but could be a kind of issue is that uh, over enthusiasm. And that actually comes because of intolerance. A speaker is speaking for a longer time, and then what happens is the over enthusiastic or the intolerant audience tries to fill the gap or ask questions to trouble the speaker. And then in a personal conversation, the person is intolerant and just winds up the communication process by saying, okay, then what? So what? Can we talk this sometime later? And they just wind up and then they leave the discussion, which is also dangerous. The other barrier is deep rooted beliefs. People become close minded due to deep rooted beliefs, and it leads to superficial listening, often causes disagreement with speaker's stance and viewpoint, can also cause positive bias and influence uh, to uh, judge. Like sometimes we are not responsible, but we have somehow developed certain deep rooted beliefs that can also give sometimes bias. And again, I'm going for another quick test now, just to check whether you are with me and whether your mind is open. And if you're listening to me, respond very quickly using the chat. Here is the test, and you need to evaluate this leader actually. So as soon as I finish reading this, you will put who is this leader in the chat. So this is about our leader who had an unhappy childhood and little formal education. His father bitterly opposed his ambition to become an artist. Through self-education, he became the author of a book that became a national bestseller. Obstacles do not discourage him. When others say it is impossible, he hurdles each barrier as it comes. He has built an active youth movement of selected young people. He is known throughout the world for his dynamic speeches. His closest associates say of him, he accomplishes incredible deeds out of the passion of his will in order to create the kind of government he believes in. Now tell me, who is this leader? Who is this great leader? Put that in message. Don't think so much. Who is this great leader? Okay, somebody says Narendra Modi. Okay, go ahead. Give me at least 5 names. Yes. This is Mr. Edu Krishnan and others. Please respond. Just be quickly. Yeah, others, other than this person, others. Chetan Bhagat, quite interesting. Okay. Then APJ Kalam, Ankesh saying APJ Kalam. Snehal says Einstein. Okay. Interesting again. Rupam Goshal, Churchill. Okay. Okay, Anamika Patel has given the correct answer. It's actually referring to Sunil says Alexander the Great, but Anamika has already given the correct answer. The famous personality is Hitler, and the depiction is from his fan, one of his ardent followers. So, yeah, Murnal also says Hitler. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Kishore also says Hitler. Uh, yes. Uh, uh, the point is we can also create positive bias. We can also say things in such a manner, we can write narratives in such a manner that we can create a positive bias to look at people uh, in the way we want. So this is another thing that you should keep in mind, especially in professional situations, uh, especially if you're a new faculty, especially if you're joining somewhere. So I have given you two examples. So people coming to you with crucial decisions telling like, you have to abort this, you have to do this, you cannot do this. Okay. So be an active listener, consider that as a version only. And then when somebody is coming and telling you or projecting someone as so good, like Mahatma, Mother Teresa, so take that as another version and do not let you generate that positive bias. So active listening means you will listen not without any prejudice, not without any bias, and you will form your own inferences to decide who that person is. Okay. So don't jump into conclusion by what these people are saying. So the lesson from this one is avoid positive bias and any kind of influence. Uh, You may keep this thought in mind. Speak in such a way that others love to listen to you. This means speak in a very pleasant manner. Do not be very aggressive. Uh, and listen in such a way that others love to speak to you. You will not believe in many interviews, whether it is student interviews or in faculty interview, whether as a panel expert or as somebody who has been watching what's happening. I've always seen experts saying the candidate spoke very nicely. The candidate spoke very nicely. And when I asked the candidate, what did you speak? The candidate says, sir, most of the time I never said anything. They asked me a question. I said very humbly, sir, I'm not aware of it. And then one of the experts said, do you want to know the answer? I said, yes, sir, I'll be happy to listen to you. So the person explained to me. Another question they asked, I didn't know. So again, I apologized. Again, they gave me the answer. I listened. Throughout 40 minutes, almost 35 minutes, I listened to them. And they have a feeling that I spoke well. Now, this is the real human psychology. You will always treat someone as a very good speaker among your colleagues, as this not the one who is talking all the time, not the one who comes and gives one-sided viewpoint all the time, but the one who is able to listen to you. You will always judge that person as a good speaker as well. So that's a very interesting point you should observe. Now, the first point and the most important one, I just want to summarize by giving you some thoughts on what can make you an active listener and what is active listening. Why I'm spending so much time? Because I'm paying to see in most of the interviews, job interviews, we are rejecting candidates, teacher candidates, faculty candidates who have already reached middle level, who are coming for promotion. Just last 2 weeks before, I was in another interview, and another renowned professor from IIT Bombay said this to the director of another institute that surprising your senior most faculty is not able to listen to us, is not able to listen and give answer to our questions. Okay. The point I'm making is most of the times people in the interviews and in personal life situations, they don't listen at all. So active listening is whole body listening. So the video I wanted to show you, or I was like seeing some of you saw that the person is not an active listener because he doesn't look at the body language of others. And when you actively listen, the person is full of eyes and ears. You are maintaining eye contact, you are looking into their eyes, but then you are also listening and you're looking for their body language. So both are there. And eyes are focused on the person talking and look for body language to correlate their verbal meaning, because those who have some idea about non-verbal communication know already that most of the times people say something but they don't mean it, and we can see that only by their body language. So ears listen carefully, brain is receptive and reflects on what is being said, mouth is shut, hands and feet are still, they do not distract. Most importantly, heart feels compassionate. The next point I'm going to make is about this heart feeling compassionate. The whole body is naturally inclined toward the speaker to show interest and empathy. In interview also, it is considered that if you are inclined towards the uh, backside, like even if they give a comfortable chair, if you sit like this, it shows disinterest. But if you're slightly inclined towards the uh, audience, speakers, panel, then it shows that you are actually more inclined and you are open and you are trying to be an active listener. Overall, the speaker gets a feeling that she's given a careful, thoughtful attention and consideration. Okay. Now, how to become? Some other tips: be courteous and considerate. Treat the speaker like a favorite guest at home. When your most favorite guest comes, so how would you treat that person? So, whether in your office or at your home, so treat the person to whom you are listening to as the most favorite guest, and pay full attention. Concentrate and eliminate all distractions, environmental, your phone. Uh, the topmost active listeners have actually just put their phones in silent mode, or they have actually put it in switch off mode when they are listening to you. Most interviews, uh, people use the phone, they keep it in silent mode, but the vibration comes, they want to check it. The panelists are unhappy that the candidate is getting distracted by the phone messages. And that was one of the major reasons for not selecting the candidate also. Okay. Uh, do not interrupt, because you will cut the flow of the person. Wait for the person to finish. Note down important points and reflect back, rephrase, restate in your own words. Ensure you have correctly understood, following closely, and minimize self talk. Okay, so self-talk will be there. Hey, what is he going to tell next? What kind of talk is this? So stop all those things when you're listening. Stay focused and keep asking questions. Now, when I say don't interrupt unnecessarily. But if you have to ask some pertinent, relevant questions, okay, so that you are able to continue with the flow, you may very courteously apologize and interrupt. Maybe you should ask, excuse me, ma'am, may I ask a question? I need a clarification here. May I ask, or should I wait? So if the person says, fine, you can ask, no, you clarify that. And when you are an active listener, never laugh or give a condescending or sarcastic smile to the person who is giving the talk. Encourage, always encourage the other person. Nod, smile, lean forward, look into the eyes of the speaker, give a pat, hug where it is relevant. Use phrases like, that's good, sounds good, damn interesting. And acknowledge efforts. How did you manage it? Wow, how could you do that? That was a wonderful idea. Even if it your colleague whom you don't like is giving some kind of discussion. So if it is a good idea, appreciate it. That was a splendid job. Great work. You are a genius to have done it. And use silence. Silence is effective in making the customer open up. Use comforting calmness. You are calm but warm in your gesture. So this means you are silent but not cold. Uh, Summarizing briefly helps you to show your concern and encourages the other person to continue. Seek clarifications when you don't understand. So, although you don't interrupt, but feel free to ask clarifications. You can say, "What do you mean to say? Could you please make this point clear to me? I'm sorry, I'm not able to follow," etc. Conclude by thanking the speaker and showing your appreciation. Nice talking to you, wonderful listening to you. I greatly appreciate the time you gave me, etc. Always make the speaker leave with a good feeling. Leave the dejected one with some hope, especially if somebody is already dejected. You make your listening a very encouraging and healing one. Okay. Now, I said that personality barriers are the most important ones as far as communication skills are concerned. Let's look at this example to make us understand that uh, people differ and there are difference in perspectives. This is an example coming from Branislaw Malinowski, a very renowned anthropologist, uh, ethnographer, and he went to cannibals. Okay, this was at the end of Second World War. He was making a study on them, and the chief of the cannibal, after his study was over and he was leaving the village. So cannibal, they are man eaters, but they allowed him because he's actually researching on them and they understood that he is going to project them in a good manner. So the cannibal had a query and he asked Malinowski how the Europeans managed to eat the quantities of human flesh produced by massive killings. Like Second World War, they came to know that so many deaths. And they asked how they ate all the bodies. And Malinowski said Europeans never ate the flesh of the enemy they killed. Now, this was a normal thing for him to say, but this was the response of the cannibal. The cannibal was shocked. And he said, "What kind of barbarians are you?" He asked in horror, "To kill people without any real object." Okay, so you are killing not for eating them, and that was a real shocker to him. And he was shocked, and he said that you are barbarians. Okay, so the normal perspective is that these cannibals are barbarians, but from the cannibals' perspective, it looked like the human beings are barbarians because they were actually killing others without any real object. So, personality barriers, again, understand this slightly better. This gives us the perspective. What gives us this perspective? The socio-cultural milieu that we have grown up, our interpersonal experiences, our temperament, our personality, our ideas and values, our position in life, okay, religious and political beliefs, etc. So all of them are giving us this perspective. Let us look at position, for example. Now, father, son. All the time, both of them say that there is a generation gap. You don't understand me. Our times were different. Okay. Teacher, student. I have seen a final year student who was indulging in malpractice. And when the student got a job opportunity as a teacher, the first thing he was ensuring is he was very strict with students who are copying and he ensured that there is no malpractice. So, as a student, your perspective is different. When you become a teacher, you change your position and values and perspective accordingly. Senior, junior, ask the junior students who are entering to any institute newly, they will say that ragging is a criminal offense and students should be punished who are indulging in ragging. Senior students will say that no, ragging is a necessary social evil. So we are grooming them, we are training them through that. Now, the same junior who opposed in the first year comes to second year as senior, and then he believes that ragging is good for all. What is happening here? Change in perspective because of change in position. The best example is mother-in-law, daughter-in-law. Thousands of teleserials, serials are all relying on this, the fight between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. And everybody knows that the daughter-in-law who hates the mother-in-law because of certain behavior, certain aggressive behavior, will eventually grow up to that kind of mother-in-law when she reaches that kind of position. Again, not all daughter-in-laws, mother-in-laws. We are also having happy exceptions, but generally the stereotypes I'm saying, the way it is shown in TVs, manager, worker. So workers feel that they are exploited, but when the person becomes manager, he has a different attitude. Husband, wife. Okay, so I should just tell a brief anecdote here. So the husband went to the doctor, and then he told the doctor that doctor, I think my wife has some hearing difficulty. Uh, Looks like she's slowly becoming deaf, and I don't want her to know this, and I want her to be treated because I'm a very sensitive and caring husband. I want her to be treated without her knowledge. Doctor said, fine. He asked, how is your house? He said, it's like a compartment, doctor. First room, second room, third room, and the last room is kitchen. Said, okay. What do you do? Like, as soon as I go, I have my key. I open the door. Said, okay. This time when you go, you open the door, and from front you say something to your wife, and you tell me from where she's able to hear you. If she's not hearing, you go to the next room, and then you tell me at one point she was responding to you. Now, when the husband went, opened the door, and in the front one, he saw his wife on the last room, kitchen, showing her back and then cooking something busy and serious. So from here, he asked her, honey, what is cooking? There was no response. So he went to the next room, and then from there he asked, sweetheart, what are you cooking? No response. Again, he went to the third room, and then he asked, honey, what are you cooking? No response. He went to the front of the kitchen and then asked, honey, what is cooking? No response. He just went next to her and then almost very close to her ear. He just asked, honey, what are you cooking? And then the wife said, chicken. And I'm shouting this for the fifth time. He said, chicken. And she said, I'm shouting this for the fifth time. The husband's perspective, wife is deaf. Reality, husband is becoming deaf and wife has been shouting all the time. Because of the position that husband will never go wrong. So the husband went into the belief that it must be the wife who is actually having issues. So always test your perspective that is emanating from a position. Be humble. Okay, so come out of the ego that the position gives. So if you're able to remove that I from that, you will be able to come out of all barriers. Okay. Other barriers are associated with one's tendency to stereotype and jump to conclusions like nationality, saying that he's an Indian, he's a Pakistani, he's a Chinese. Okay. But if you go to like US, Europe, all the three people who are even with Bangladeshi, they're all staying in the same apartment, watching the uh, mm, cricket played between these two ones, and they're not fighting. They understand that some of these issues are political and not between people. Religion, again, in the name of religion, you know how many calamities, confusions, deaths, whether it's Jew or Parsi or Hindu. or Muslim. Race color, saying black or white and yellow, brown, all these colors. So immediately they follow, have some stereotypes. In terms of work, somebody is a professor who will never tell lie. Businessman is like this. Lawyer will always tell lies. Smuggler will always try to cheat. Rickshaw puller might have stolen something. Sweeper, beggar. So we attribute certain stereotypes. Food aspect. A vegetarian is considered to be some kind of person. Non-vegetarian is considered to be some kind. Education. IITians thinking that we are the best. Government college, we are better than government college. Government college students thinking that we at least came through merit than the private college ones, and so on. 10 pointer, 5 pointer. Okay, so in IITs, we have this issue like 10 pointers think they are great, and 5 pointers, like Chetan Bhagat's novel, considered to be averages, 5 pointers. What happens is we deny them individuality, and we interrupt uh, within the framework of a stereotype the symbols these individuals display, and then we fix it, so which is very dangerous. So do not have this kind of things if you become an active listener. Some of the ways in which you can identify, okay, rigidity of thought. Okay, people neither learn from any new information nor accept any contradictory view. And the know-it-all types. How do you know them? They will say, all the time it's done like this. Always it's like this. Everybody is corrupt. Why are you telling me? None can do this. Never it is done this way. Nobody can do this. Now, all these are like mind blocks and overcoming strategies. One is developing empathy. I always tell students when I give talk, I say that one thing that we lack today is this empathetic living. The moment you know what would happen to someone if I do this, you will understand that you will not do that. Okay, because one small thing a person does has a butterfly effect, and it can cause ripples and it can lead to a tornado. So empathy is something that we need to develop. So the willingness to recognize someone's situation, accept his or her point of view without prejudice, being non-judgmental, open to receive contrary thoughts and ideas, an understanding of the psychology of man, awareness of differences in background perception point of view, and analyzing one's verbal and non-verbal behavior and developing relevant personality traits, and never allowing stereotypes to cloud one's judgment. Okay. Always acknowledge the perceptual difference. That is what you see. Okay. Whether it is a rabbit or duck, what do you see quickly? One or two? Just put in chat at least two messages. Do you see a rabbit or a duck? Okay, duck. Dr. Nanda, duck. Uh, okay, okay. Pratima says rabbit. But uh, if you see from this side, rabbit's mouse, eyes, leg, tail, and then these are rabbit's ears. Okay, so you'll be able to see the rabbit. But if you see this as the duck's beak and eyes, and this as duck's tail, then you will see the duck. So, and after some time, you'll be able to see both. The point is, most of the times people fight, debate, argue, saying that this is a rabbit, and the other person says, no, this is a duck. Okay. So, this another interesting one. Whether this is an which one you see first, like old woman or young lady? Okay, Edu says young. Okay, good. So Savita ma'am says both. Fine. Okay, okay. So okay, young lady. So those who are okay, many are seeing young lady. Maybe you are young. Some are seeing both. But the old lady, if you see this as the old lady's mouth, eyes, nose, so you'll be able to see the old lady. Okay. The point again I'm trying to make is this optical illusions, which makes you to argue thinking that you are correct, but actually you may be uh, not wrong, but wrong from someone else's perspective. But if you take that perspective, you'll understand that the other person is also correct. Stephen Covey, in his famous book, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, he tells us why he wrote the book in the introduction, which most of you might have missed even if you have read the book. Uh, he was traveling on a New York subway car. The subway car is normally carrying people for job and returning. And so most of the times people are very tired and they are just either reading or dozing off, or most of the times they are very calm and collected. Uh, it will be very silent. And suddenly a man enters with three children and like two girls and one boy, and they're smiling, they're giggling, they're making a lot of noise, and they start even playing hide and seek. Somebody was reading a newspaper and this person goes and hides behind, and then the sister was looking for him. Now the father of these three children who are so unruly and noisy in the bus and disturbing all of them, and all people are getting annoyed. This is not an Indian scenario. This is like the environment where people would like to be left alone and peaceful. They don't like others encroaching on their privacy. So they were so annoyed, and Stephen Covey was also angry. He was so angry, and he was about to shout the children, but before shouting, he thought that he will first ask the father, and maybe the father should shout. And even before asking the father, what is he doing, the father was just left in his own thoughts. It looked like his eyes are focused on the children, but it also looks like he actually uh, kind of absorbed in his own thoughts, and he was just not saying anything. So this somewhat troubled Stephen Covey. And then he asked the uh, father, instead of asking him to shout at the children first, he asked him, what is bothering you? Can you see the children like making a lot of trouble? But you seem to be observant and silent. So, oh, then he came to his sense and he said, sorry, like, if you want, I'll just tell them to stop. He said, no, but tell me, like, why you are not stopping them? What is making you keep quiet? I'm quite surprised about that. To which the father said, we are just coming from the funeral ceremony. We have just buried her mother, and from the crematorium, I am coming. She's just 35 years, very young, energetic, very loving and caring of all of us. And we have just lost her in her accident, and we have just buried and we have come. And I used to be a very busy person till this moment, and I have never found time to care for my children because my wife did everything for me, and I had never to bother about the children or even about her. And the children had been always asking me to take them on the subway car, and I have never done it. Okay. It's the first time they have come on this car and they're so excited. And for a moment, they have forgotten that they are returning from the funeral ceremony. They were so crying there. And the car is making them feel excited and they are very happy in this kind of thing. They are playful now. But I know that as soon as we get down from this, they'll stop this laughter. And I knew that this is not going to last forever. But worse than that, my thought is lying at my home, looking at the emptiness there. I don't know what I will do once I take them home. So I'm buried in that thought, but I'm really sorry. If you want, I'll stop. Now, Stephen Covey was angry with this person a minute before, was so overwhelmed with feeling. He was not able to tell him to do anything. He said, he just gestured and said that just continue, keep quiet. He supported the children troubling others. And at that moment, he was wondering what made him change his mind. 1 minute before, he was also annoyed and he was angry. And what happened now? Now, he took the other man's perspective and he understood by using his empathy that the other person is actually having a genuine reason for behaving in that manner. So in active listening is the like concluding thought I should be giving you before I go to some other points very quickly. Don't be guided by prejudice, by what is appearing before your eyes. Seek first to understand and then to be understood. Okay. Never say that nobody understands me, okay, but try to understand others first, and automatically you'll be understood. So use empathy and be expressive by using empathy. Look at the thought from Khalil Gibran. He says, keep me away from the wisdom which does not cry, the philosophy which does not laugh, and the greatness which does not bow before children. Now, by children, I would also understand people who are vulnerable. People who are vulnerable before you. So be very empathetic, understand their issues, and be as supportive as possible, because the real joy lies in compassion, not in enjoying some temporary pleasures. Okay. Now, the other thing, in order to overcome any kind of barrier in communication, stop blaming others. J.K. Rowling, in her most famous Stanford commencement address, tells the young graduates this. She says, there is an expiry date on blaming your parents for steering you in the wrong direction. The moment you are old enough to take the wheel, responsibility lies with you. Stop blaming others. Stop blaming your parents. Stop blaming your employers. Stop blaming your siblings. Stop blaming the environment. Stop blaming students. Stop blaming colleagues. When something goes wrong, own responsibility. Take a responsibility. Eckhart Tolle, in his again most famous book, The Power of Now, says that there is a phase when there is failure or frustration. When frustration happens, you have a goal expected and you are not able to fulfill or achieve the goal, and then you are frustrated. Some people interpret that as failure. Now, he says many people get stuck here. They go to the level of committing suicide. But he says that some people start blaming, say that others are responsible, and they get into the denial mode. And many people do not come to the next level. But if you are aware of this level, you will come to the next level, that is the introspection level, thinking that maybe I have done something wrong. Maybe I take responsibility of this situation. If I take responsibility and I accept it, what happens to me? There is an awareness of my limitations. And what is the next stage? There is skills development. I start developing skills appropriate to make this temporary setback a success in future. And then I get into self-actualization mode. I bring the best creative self in me. I start accomplishing things, and then there is real internal inner joy and peace. Stop blaming others. Most of the times in the question answer session, people will tell me the next point I'm going to make is about fixed mindset and growth mindset. People will say, my boss is fixed mindset. My parents are having fixed mindset. So I just recall them this thing. I say that stop blaming others. If you are going to blame others, you are never going to come out of the fixed mindset. So we will look at that later. Uh, the other barrier that we are having nowadays is the technology barrier. This picture illustrates very well what Einstein has feared, and we have arrived at that stage. Einstein feared this. He said, I fear the day that technology will surpass our human interaction. The world will have a generation of idiots. Now, idiots in the sense, he is not saying without knowledge, but without wisdom. without compassion, without empathy for fellow human beings. So I need not explain the picture that is there, but wherever you are. So even for dinner in the same house, mother is sending WhatsApp message to father in another room, son in another room, daughter in another room, and they all say that, okay, why don't you send it to my room? So that is the situation, and how we can overcome this barrier. As far as human communication is involved, use it to the minimum. Use appropriate media, whether spoken or written or non-verbal, and appropriate channel. So if you can do something face to face, do that. Not be afraid of that. One to one, one to group. Use telephone when required. Okay. Sometimes there are things like emails, letters. Still, people write letters, SMS message, WhatsApp message. Use very sparingly, only when it is required. So at the same time, avoid overuse, sending too many long emails, long phone calls, and misuse. For example, asking confidential matter using SMS or WhatsApp, or using Facebook or WhatsApp inappropriately. Okay. Uh, so I think others are getting the audio. Dr. Kuldeep, maybe you should increase your audio. Others, are you able to hear my audio? Kuldeep is saying no audio. Maybe you should see when all others are hearing. Dr. Kuldeep, there are two issues. One, your internet connectivity is poor. Two, you should put your volume in 100, and you should maybe check whether yours is in mute form or not. Or okay, all others are hearing. Okay, thank you, thank you. For example, Facebook is not the one in which you just send a message and ask a senior person, an important person for an appointment, or unless the person has become very close to you, or sometimes even asking for some kind of reference letter, important things. So Facebook is like your private page. Okay. So yeah, Dr. Kuldeep, you join again, I will re-allow, no issues. Sometimes even in the top level, communication can go to miscommunication. This is what is happening in most of the organizations where it is top to bottom. Top level, they say something, they intend something, but different departments handle it differently, and then it ends up in a different manner. Let us look at it very quickly. So, marketing requested, this is requested by marketing, a 3-tier swing. So they did it like that. Now, when the sales ordered it, so they did it like this. And then when engineers designed it, so it was designed this way. So then it was thought that it's not functional. So production manufactured it this way. Again, there were issues. So maintenance were complaints. So maintenance installed it. Okay. But you could see how maintenance installed it. But what the customer actually wanted was a simple 3-tier swing. They heard this as 3-tier swing, and they put that into tiers, okay, layers, instead of just making a 3-tier swing. Active listening, empathic listening amounts to this. If you can listen properly, if you can ask people what was actually intended, what you can do is you can avoid this kind of miscommunication. So how do we overcome this surmounting organizational barriers? Modification of communication network, give direct access, do not send it through so many conduits, points, nodal officers. Okay. But at the same time, disseminate through several channels. Send email, send a voice message, put some notice. Even nowadays, they are using infographics, put in the form of pictures. Use a feedback system involving more than one source. Create an open environment for interaction and feedback. Anyone can clear from anyone. Flattening of organizational structure. Instead of a vertical top down, bottom up, have a horizontal communication. Anyone can crisscross clear doubts from anyone. Providing sufficient information through formal channels. Okay. All are important because remember, people hear what they really want to hear. This picture again illustrates what I want to tell you. Again, indicates the position. What wife say? She says, go to the store, lay down the mulch, wash and wax the car, get the kids at school, rent some videos, and finish the rest of the dishes. What husbands hear? Go, lay down, and get some rest. So this also parallelly illustrates what people do is normally what they want to hear. Okay. Now, the other thing is today, another thing that has become a common malady is stressing oneself and then stressing others. Okay. Now, very important overcoming strategy is avoid this because if there is stress, you will get into this mode of sadness, immunity gets weakened, there is a like thought of emptiness, pain, uh, other diseases which are emotional diseases, like for example heart attack coming out of blood pressure, diabetes, thyroid, all are considered as like emotional diseases. uh, you start with stress, it's like buy one get two free. You get one, maybe diabetes, and you get all other free, like thyroid and other ones. So be careful with this, and you need to understand that it is not stress that kills us, it is our reaction to it. So the major cause of stress is the ability of people to discover their inability of people to discover their real nature. Discover your gifts, follow them, and you will never feel stressed. Now, small illustrative point. It is not stress that kills us, it is our reaction to it. Sundar Pichai was narrating this incident. He was in a five-star hotel and he was observing this. A cockroach went and sat on a lady's shoulder. So she got scared. She was yelling, she was jumping, she threw all the food stuff there. So all other people got panicked. But the cockroach flew and then it went and sat on the shoulder of a waiter there. The waiter was just very calm and collected. He didn't do anything. He was not jumping. He was not doing anything. He took a napkin and then he just held it in his hand. He took to the washroom, flushed it, and then came back, washed his hands, and then quietly continued with his job. Now, Sundar Pichai was observing and he was saying that the cockroach was same. The cockroach was same, whether it sat on the lady or on the waiter. But what gave stress was not the cockroach, but the way these two people reacted. One person didn't take stress at all, but the other lady not only took stress, but then she gave stress to others also. So when you are in stress, remember this point: what you choose to focus on will grow. If you want to worry, you will worry. So if you will grow love, if you will grow compassion, it will grow. So do not nurture guilt and then anxiety. What should you do to regulate stress? And you might have seen that some people are so relaxed in job, and then some people are even dying due to stress, especially COVID induced stress. People are dying even with high immunity level. But look at the quote from Nietzsche. He says, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. High BPs, heart attacks, nervous breakdowns, diabetes, they can all be handled if stress is regulated. When you are able to regulate stress, you will complete tasks easier and better, create time for other jobs or just to relax with family or friends. You will stay calm even in testing times, and people won't know whether you are undergoing stress or not. If you Do this, you are opening your communication one to other. Okay. I say regulate your stress. It's not killing or beating your stress. This amounts to managing your environment. Uh, Very quickly, what can you do to do this? First is personal health habits, keeping yourself fit. How do you do that? Some minimum exercise. Before that, it is preceded by proper sleep. If you want to be very energetic, at least 7 to 8 hours. And they suggest that normally same time, the optimum time they say is 10:30. You go 5:36. You get up. If you can get sleep, so you'll be energetic, active, highly. You will have immunity. Exercise for 45 minutes in a day, preferably in the sunlight. Take vitamin D. This is important again. And exercise means like not going to gym and developing six pack or something like that. Do the thing that you can sweat at least for 20 minutes. If you can play tennis, if you can play badminton, and if you can sweat, it is fine. If you can do gardening and if you can sweat, fine. If you can do cycling and if you can sweat, fine. But you have to sweat in the sunlight so that you can absorb vitamin D. And when you sweat, what happens is your BP will be regulated automatically. Extra fat will go from your system. Yoga, meditation, these are all top ups. Eating healthy food and in time. So people who want to reduce weight, they are stopping at 7:30 maximum and giving long time at night, and they're eating only healthy food, no junk food. Mindfulness, so which is also amounting to deep learning. Okay. Fully focusing on something and then deeply involved in something, even whether it is bathing or sipping tea, and then having a work plan. Okay, and never postponing, and occasionally taking break from work. Okay. Now, what happens when you are able to master first level at your level? You'll be able to identify stress in groups and you'll be able to deal with them. You can even use jokes, share your experience, make people talk, laugh, and that is another way you can do. Normally, they say that if you are able to use your five senses, you'll be able to relieve it. And most of the times, we use one or so. Like sight, for example, they say go to nature. Look at things which are beautiful: rain, garden, waterfall, okay, snow peak to mountains, just trees or even grass. Okay. Sound, hear good music, okay, or talk to people whom you like to talk to, pleasant voice. Okay. Smell, even they say that eating good food, smell and taste can also reduce. Smell beautiful flower, perfume can also reduce your stress. Movement, every 1 hour just moving. Okay. And then touching, like sometimes somebody giving a pat or even touching, like playing with pets. Many people feel that it's very highly stress relieving also. There are other quick ones which are elaborating from that: taking a shower, hot or cold, talking to your friend without any prejudice, walking in a natural setting, listening to your favorite soothing music, deep breathing, okay, watching a favorite movie, reading a favorite novel or pages from motivating book, going to a temple or any place where you feel very calm and serene. For some people, even shopping in a mall occasionally, eating your favorite food, laughing is very important. Stress management is life management. If you take control of your stress, your life will thank you for it. And learn to manage stress by developing conflict resolution skills. uh, Peace comes not from the absence of conflicts, but from the ability to cope up with it. So I wanted to show another video, but since we have issues and time, I'll just tell what was there in the video. It's a award-winning movie. There's a blind man, and he has a pet fish. But when he walks inside, there's a phone call, so he puts his hand on the bowl with water, and the bowl cracks and the fish falls down. But then instead of getting annoyed, instead of getting so stressed, he immediately realizes that he has to create an environment for the fish. So there is a small drainage hole. He removes his coat and puts the coat there, and then runs water from all the taps. Okay. Very quickly, the water level becomes high. He sits, and the fish slowly swims. It was wriggling, slowly swims, and then it comes. And then he has put his palm down. It comes and rests on his palm. So when there is situation which is troublesome, by overreacting, so you're not going to solve it. But if you're calm and collected, then your presence of mind will work. So that was the thing that was shown in that one. In terms of professional situations, in job situations, you need to develop conflict resolution skills. You can resolve conflicts by being destructive, or you can resolve conflicts by being constructive. But I suggest be constructive. So when you are destructive, what happens is normally the destructive person attacks individuals, but the constructive one disagrees with ideas and approaches, not with personality or character. Focuses on the issue, no antagonism, only the differences are highlighted, but no way the person's sentiments are hurt. Now, destructive person won't let even the group progress. Constructive person informs group performance and cohesion. Destructive person, characteristic of low performers. Constructive one, characteristic of high performers. So try to be at the constructing level. And what are the phrases you can use in your communication so that you eliminate conflicts instead of escalating? Look at this very quickly. When you show anger, when you become threatening and aggressive, you are escalating. Eliminating, being calm and collected. Hitting, throwing things, escalating, eliminating, keeping anger in control. Shouting, yelling, decide, avoiding personal attacks, using abusive words, agreeing to the extent possible, insulting, ridiculing, decide, being flexible and willing to change and compromise, escalating, being rigid, refusing to discuss and arrive at a solution, eliminating, looking for a win-win solution, escalating, protesting, walking out, eliminating, persisting patiently till the conflict is resolved. So there are phrases like instead of saying I am right, you are wrong, try to say you are right, but I'm not wrong. What you say is true, but it's a blocker. If you say what you say is true, and please look at this, consider this. Instead of thinking I should win, you should lose, go for a win-win solution. Instead of saying you are responsible, say I'm responsible. Okay. Um, Instead of saying you say sorry first, you apologize. Okay. You say that I'm listening, please go ahead. Instead of saying you always do this wrongly, you say I promise not to repeat. So the PPT and the recording will be shared, don't worry. Somebody is asking for this, don't worry, at the end of it it will be done. What resolves conflicts? As I was trying to tell you, uh, negotiation. You just go, bring the issue to the table, negotiate without any prejudice, it will resolve. Mediate sometimes with a well wisher. Look at both sides and go for a win win attitude. Now, if you look at these two pictures, this side it looks like 4, that side it looks like 3, this side it looks like 6, that side it looks like 9, and both are right. And understand, as I have shown in the previous one, our perspective is actually dictated, determined by mental models. And this model is not very objective. Okay. Now, how do we check that mental model? Ask provoking questions. Is the other person likely to be right? And do not jump into conclusions. Share your thinking with team members. Okay. Look at the quote from Anais Nin. We do not see things the way they are, we see them as we are. Okay, so their reality is always different. Cognitive assonance. When you like someone, you form confirmation bias. Look at this cartoon. One person is asking, did you fact check this before reposting it? I don't need to. It agrees with my preconceived views and biases, so it must be true. So this is cognitive assonance and kind of bias, okay, which leads to confirmation bias, where you will not seek out any objective facts, and you will only remember those details that you like to uphold, or it upholds your belief, and then you will filter. You will ignore all other information. And look at this. What makes people go for comforting lies than unpleasant truths? Look at the cartoon I have put. Unpleasant truths, that is truth, but nobody wants to hear. Comforting lies, everyone is in a queue. Even when they know that it's just a lie, they're okay with this. So, what is it that is making us go with this kind of thing? Because this is because of cognitive dissonance. We do not want to hear things which we have not got into our system. We oppose. If it is a new idea, if it is a particular topic, we try to oppose. Okay. But it can be positive if you try to understand that this can be a growth situation. It can lead to our change, although if it is a different idea. Okay. Now, going from the beginning and now, another uh, fine focal point I want you to think is that be open and direct in communication. All the time, when there is a presentation or something, when people ask what should be the topmost one, I say that be open and direct in your communication, speak from your heart. Okay. Now, if you're able to do that, what happens? People will know that you are truthful, you are honest, and people will be all ears. And look at this quote: a lot of problems in the world would disappear if we talk to each other instead of about each other. If we talk to, if you go and ask the person, did you say this? I was hurt, I was offended by that. Or somebody was saying something about you like this. Is that true? Okay. Or instead of even bringing anybody from outside reference, if you just go to the other person and ask, may I know this? Would you like to share this information with me? If you talk to each other instead of talking about each other all the time, why miscommunication? Gossip, okay, and then all wrong information, character assassination from the behind. Okay. So if you're not joining this ring, if you want to break the chain, every institute there is a canteen or a coffee club. You know that where there is this, it's like a factory. Gossips are being generated. Like, make it a habit. It's very tempting sometimes to go and hear about others. That's a human tendency. We are happy if others are suffering, and we don't want others to hear that we are suffering. Okay, that's a paradoxical thing. But if you avoid going there, you are breaking the chain. Just like we are talking about putting the mask. Now that mask for not spreading any gossip is something that we need. Harmonize relationship using win-win problem solving. Why? Understand no life is lived without conflicts. You cannot pray to God that you give a day without conflicts. As it was said before, peace will come to you only when you learn to resolve conflicts. Every relationship will face conflicting situations at some point or other. When we are able to resolve internal and interpersonal conflicts, only then it strengthens human relationship. If you don't, it actually destroys any kind of relationship. So some very quick suggestions how you can resolve conflicts. Choose a conducive environment. If normally you are fighting in the canteen, don't sit there. Go to the garden, or even go for a movie together, or have dinner together in some other place, in your neighbor's place. Brainstorming, okay, getting the facts. Active listening is very important. Focus on the problem, not on the person. Diffusing managing anger. Somebody is angry, you just try to diffuse that by offering cool drinks, okay, or changing the person's pace, or by being quiet. If you also raise your voice, it will escalate the anger. Avoiding communication blockers, which I have said, like you always do this, you have never done this. Use empathy skills. Cognitive restructuring, like going back and narrating the situation as a story and saying, suppose at this point, if you have not used this word, when you said you idiot, that triggered the other person. Suppose if you have not said this, it could have changed. So what do you think you should be doing now? The other person says, I'm sorry about that word. Okay. So, okay, if you can apologize, it's done. So cognitive restructuring and negotiating outcomes, saying that if you two are united, it's harmonious to the entire group. Otherwise, it's making all of us feel stressed. And choosing a solution that works for everybody, never be part of the problem. Remember, when you are able to provide win-win solution, there is an intense feeling of mutual respect, and love grows deeper with every conflict resolved, even among colleagues. And keep this, it is easy to keep in mind. Use the wisdom of Socrates. When his disciples went and asked Socrates, great sage, tell us, give us a remedy for love at first sight. He said, close second look. This means, he said, do not go by first appearance, do not go by prejudice, quick, earlier judgment. Okay. And then he said that follow the triple filter test. If somebody is bringing some kind of gossip, you ask the person whether it is true. If the person says no, you say, don't tell me. You ask whether it will do good to anyone. If the person says no, then you don't ask the person. Then if the person say, you ask whether it is useful to any of us. If the person says no, then you don't also accept it. The most important thing today we are losing is our sense of humor. And Socrates like lived to tell people that you should never lose it. In his case, even when his wife shouts at him, uh, all his disciples were there, and his wife came, and as usual, she shouted at him, saying that you have not done this, you have not done that, and you are just sitting as if you are not carrying all these things. Just shout, and he was just sitting quiet. And then she got so furious, and then she took a bucket of water, and then she just poured it on him. To which Socrates just smiled and then remarked, so first it was thundering, it was roaring in thunder, and now it has started raining. Even the wife could not control her laughter, she also laughed. So when you use humor, which I'm going to tell you in the next few slides, you can diffuse the situation, bring out very win-win solutions, and be like the Buddhist monk who never accepted any gift. Now, this Buddhist monks, you know, that they have to rely on their life only by taking alms. They'll be going for begging food. They'll not make food. So once when he went for begging, this lady who used to give shouted at him like anything, abused him, said, shameless fellow. Every time you are coming for begging, doing no work. Okay. And she shouted for about 1 hour, and he was just standing quietly. And she said, no food, leave. And then he just left very calmly. She was very annoyed. She said, stop. You're not saying anything. Say something. To which he said, ma'am, if someone gives you a gift and then you don't take the gift, to whom does the gift lie? She says, it lies with the person who wanted to give. And then he left silently, implying that you wanted to give me this gift of abuses. I'm not taking the gift. It lies with you. So have that kind of attitude, like do not retort back. Do not think that tit for tat. I will should have one up. You write a bad email. I will try to show you how I can write worse than that. Be like the Buddhist monk. Just smile and then move away and say that you keep the gift. Okay, so that will again minimize this thing and add humor. Nowadays, we are just completely forgetting this in workplace. If you are able to add it, it will minimize stress increase productivity. It will help you to connect people. I remember a senior colleague with whom I went for conducting GATE exam, which used to be so serious, meticulously how to be serious. And we were there for 2 days. Entire day he was cracking jokes, making us humorous, and even in a very serious one. And no, nothing on person, always on situation, so that everybody can laugh at that. But at the same time, our productivity, we were not feeling the tedium. We did our best. So it can create warmth, it can destroy coldness. And the one who is humorous, the genuine humor, will get many good colleagues. And people will always help the person even in difficult situations. So keep this good sense of humor alive. All of us have this, which is an innate one in human beings. In fact, they say when you cease to be humorous, you actually stop to be a human being also. That's a typical quality that God has given for human beings. But there are people who lose this sense and get depressed, even they leave jobs sometimes. Okay. In meetings, sometimes when you begin with jokes, audience are able to relate to people very easily. And then in workplace, people find you very adaptable, flexible, spontaneous. As you open up to new ideas and challenges, you will become optimistic and help the people around you to perform better. So try to share jokes. Okay. Even keep a WhatsApp group only for sharing jokes. Uh, in some organizations, they have kept notice boards in which they display best humor, and they have humor competitions. The one who shares the best joke is given some token amount, a cake or a chocolate, but it's just a healthy competition to bring the best humor. Humor club, humor room is created instead of coffee club. You have to go there and share jokes only, and you have to make people laugh. So when you have a kind of sense of play, humor, when you even do the most tedious work, that boredom of work will disappear. Okay. And it will also make you gain a new perspective, maintain emotional balance. You'll be able to express in a very creative manner. And even in some situation, when all other options have not worked out in a situation, you can use humor, and you can solve the problem. But at the same time, take note of others' body language. If they are not happy, you should not be doing something that people are unhappy about it. Use your discretion, but use it to the maximum possible. Look at these quotes. Lance Boss says you have got to have a sense of humor to keep your sanity, and Charlie Chaplin says a day without laughter is a day wasted. And it's all in perspective. Look at this humor. An old man has 8 hair on his head. He went to the barber shop. Barber, in anger, asked, "Shall I cut or count?" Old man smiled and said, "Color it." Okay. Now, life is to enjoy with whatever you have with you. So, even with 8 hair, he said, you just dye it, you color it. I want it to be colored. Okay. Now, few concluding thoughts. Develop growth mindset. Okay. Now, move from fixed mindset to growth mindset. Like a lot can be talked about this, but very quickly, in the growth mindset, try to face challenge instead of avoiding uh, any limitations. Embrace that. Go for constructive criticism instead of attacking people, and believe that intelligent and talent, okay, is not coming from DNA, but can be improved through hard work, developing skills, and proper mentoring. Okay. And focus on the process instead of the end result. And if somebody is successful, be inspired by their success. Think of learning as brain training. Do not think of failure as something that is blocking your career fully. Understand that as an opportunity to grow. The thought is actually percolated by Carol Dweck in her path-breaking book on mindset, where she believes that there's nothing in DNA, but by hard work, good strategies, and mentorship, you'll be able to contribute to outstanding achievements. Now, what do we mean by good strategies? Okay. Very quickly, if you look at the story of uh, this rabbit and the turtle, you know that they went for a race, and then we have the moral that the slow and steady wins the race, because the rabbit was sleeping after running fast, and then the turtle moved very slowly, and then it won the race. Now, let us take this as an analogy, and then how do you develop growth mindset, and how do you use strategies? Can strategies be developed from this situation? Yes. Now, let's say the rabbit went to a mentor. Mentor need not be a senior person. It can be a book. It can be positive thoughts. So he learned something from the mentor, and the rabbit realized that I should change the strategy. So I slept. Now this time I should not sleep. So it asked the turtle for another race, and this time it didn't sleep. It ran fast, and then the moral of using the strategy: fast and consistent will always beat the slow and steady. Okay. Now, the story is not ending there. The turtle also went to a mentor. The turtle wanted to know how I can beat this rabbit despite this situation. The mentor said, look at the core competence. Okay. Develop core competence. So this time the turtle said, let's go for a race, but I choose the venue, I choose the path. So the turtle choose a path in which there is a kind of lake, and the rabbit has to run across the lake, but the turtle get into the lake, and then it swam very fast, and then it reached the target. So the turtle realized that I have competence in water which the rabbit is not having, and I should use that competence. So the strategy here: identify your core competency, change the playing field to suit it. uh, Remember, nothing is in DNA. You are using the wrong strategy. Use the strategy that is working somewhere, identify your core competency, and change the playing field to suit it. Now the rabbit realized that the turtle is having a core competency which it's not having. So my message to all of you is coming now, it's not ending here. So the rabbit went to the turtle, like seemingly opposing colleagues, polar opposites. And then it said that, see, you have your core competence, I have mine. Why not we team up? Why not we follow strategic alliance? Okay. Now they teamed together, and then they challenged other pairs. They said, you come with any pair, a tiger and a lion. Okay, you fox and crow. You just come in any pair, and the path we will decide, and we bet some amount, and then we'll see who wins. They won all competitions because of their core competency. How? Uh, the turtle will take the rabbit in the water, it will swim, and the rabbit was sitting over the turtle. And on the road, the turtle was lying on the back of the rabbit, and the rabbit was carrying. So they were running very fast. What is the moral of the strategy? Nothing in DNA. Use your strategy correctly, use core competence, compete against the situation, not against the rival. Pooling resources, working as a team will always beat individual performers. So, this is the most important thing I'm trying to drive home in your mind. After being an active listener, being an empathetic one, pool resources. Okay, instead of hating each other, generate love, work as a team, identify the core competence. If you're able to do, you will beat individual performers. This is where, again, I would like to tell you, after doing that, focus on deep learning. Today, we are so distracted, and anything we do, we are doing it in a superficial manner. You have to say indistractable, you should not be distracted, and always strive to bring out the best version of you. Okay. Look at the quote from Jackie Griffin: when your only competition is becoming a better you, you will always win the game. Develop your skills, your strategies, your core competence, and then go for strategic alliance. So, uh, people think that if you're in a central government job, your job is secure. It's not true. M.R. Kochmeyer says that your only job security is your indispensability. So you have to develop skills, you have to rely on skills and develop your skills, your core competence, and only that can actually allow you to uh, survive in a job. So having said this, now very quickly, let us sum up. There is one on attitude. Let's see if time permits, I'll show the video. Otherwise, very quickly to sum up, I was saying be an active listener, use empathy. I gave you the story of Stephen Covey. Stop blaming others. This is a very irresistible temptation, but do that. Own responsibility. Remember Rowling, who said there is an expiry date to blaming others and your environment. Okay, Eckhart Tolle says only when you accept, then you'll be able to move to awareness and develop your skills and self-actualize. Minimize technological use for human communication. Do not stress yourself and stress others. Never gossip or spread false news. Use humor. Be calm in stressful situations so that you can use your presence of mind. Do not overstress also, and develop growth mindset, and keep your attitude always in a very positive frame of mind. Be the incorrigible optimist. Okay. Thank you so much, and sorry for the initial hitch we had with regard to uh, this one. So type your questions, doubts, conflicts, or any comments and appreciations in the chat box. I'm just going to allow all of you to unmute. Okay, and then if you want, you can ask questions through uh, audio, video also. Okay. Yes. Uh, so any questions that you want to ask, you can put in the chat. Yeah, thank you. Uh, I'm just trying to see whether I can unmute all the participants, or you can, anyone who wants, you can request to be unmuted.
Good afternoon, Professor Ravi Chandran.
Yeah.
So on behalf of the participants and the coordinator, I would like to thank you for this very informative session. I know I've been pinging you to end.
Yeah, somebody has asked a question. Shall I very quickly answer and then you can conclude it?
Yes, sir. Please do that, and then we'll have to.
Yeah. Okay. So one person has asked, like, how do we make the students attend classes? Maybe that was the question, right? How to deal with students not attending the classes and complaining to other faculties that they are not understanding the lectures. So I would suggest that try using the blended mode. Try using what is called as flipped mode, which we are doing in pandemic. For example, we record the lectures in advance and then share it with them. So they don't come with the tension of learning something new. Whatever they want to learn, it's already there in the form of video. We share the PPTs. We even share the transcripts with them. Now, what they do in their home, that is some task, for example, role playing, brainstorming, discussing on something, presentations. We do that in online meetings. So that makes it very effective. So you should try that, although it takes more time. Okay. So the same thing as I told you. So like I have tried this when I share the videos in advance and then make them watch that. I also conduct a mini quiz to ensure that whether they are watching. I also have some rewarding system. So those who are answering, they are getting some plus points. And the other thing is making them speak. So I just remain an active listener. I just tell them to speak all the time, ask, seek doubts, so that when the students feel that they are participating in your classroom activities, I think they feel automatically encouraged. Just try that. And 2-3 questions are related to that. Yes, ma'am, over to you.
Thank you so much, Professor Ravichandran. It's really been most of our faculty members who are here listening to you. And thank you so much, sir. I request the others to please join the WebEx for our next instructor. And sir, I'll get back to you.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm sharing the PPT and the video with ma'am. Don't worry about it. Yeah. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Please join WebEx, the same link.